Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're enjoying this Fiat Ducato van build series. I'm trying to make it as detailed and as interesting as possible, and to give you as much information as possible if you're attempting to do your own van conversion. So I hope you're enjoying these videos. In today's video we've got to tackle the floor. Now, being an old van, this is a 2006 Fiat Ducato. It's obviously seen a bit of action in its life. So there's a few rusty spots and some bits of worn out paint on the floor and the wheel arches and so forth that we need to take care of before we put the new subfloor down. So in this video we're going to be cleaning, prepping the floor, painting it, treating any rust, and then giving it a final coat before we start work on the van. So let's get into cleaning the van out. Now some of these hold down bolts are really rusty, so might give you a bit of a problem, and that's where this impact driver really comes in handy. This is first go. Let's see how we do. Right. Doesn't look like that's gonna play ball. Now we were struggling to get that bolt out. These bolts that hold the tie downs are a Torx bolt. So you've seen me take these out when we took the headliner out. The Torx nut is like a flowery sort of pattern, a 6-pointed flower, and you can see this Torx bit here. So that's what you need to actually take those out. But when they get rusted in like some of these have, it's really difficult to get enough purchase on that nut with this little tool or with the driver, and what tends to happen is it strips all of this head and then you can't get them out at all. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to use a grinder to cut a slot in the head, and this is what I've done with this particular one. I've took a cutting blade, a very thin metal cutting blade, and with the grinder I've cut a slot in the head of this bolt, and then that allows me to get a much bigger screwdriver in there, much more purchase on the bolt, and then we can get these out. Now you won't be able to get enough leverage on that with just your hand, so it helps to have another screwdriver to give you some extra leverage. And there you go. So now, with that bigger slot cut in the top, we can easily undo this one as well. There we go. That will be warm, so don't touch it. So we've got all these tie down bolts out finally. They were pretty rusted and most of them we had to cut through with the grinder to just get a little bit more purchase on them than that Torx screw, but they're all out. That's good. I am probably going to replace these with some stainless steel bolts, and then I'll seal them into the body with some Sikaflex and some wax oil underneath, so those holes won't go rusty anymore. Obviously the van's really dirty now, so we've got the worst of it out with this brush. We're going to get some soapy water and give the floor a real good scrub initially, get the worst of the dirt off, and then the next stage will be tackling all this rust. There's not many places, just a few little spots. This is definitely the worst, and a combination of these wire brushes in a drill or this little flapper disc maybe on the angle grinder, and we'll rub these back to bare metal as best as we possibly can. any areas that are a bit tight to get to, I'm going to treat it with this crust. And then this, what we'll do is it will sort of neutralise anything that's still there that we can't get to. As I say, any of the screw holes, and we're going to seal up with some Sikaflex, because there are some screw holes, a couple, like one there, so we'll put plenty of sealant in those, make sure they're sprayed with Waxall from underneath, so it gives them plenty of protection. And then finally, once we've got all the rust back to bare metal, I'm then going to put some red oxide primer on, basically to seal the metal first, and then give it a final coat of smooth hammerite, and this is a silver to match the van. Hammerite, they do say that you can paint this direct onto bare metal and even direct onto rust, but we're going to make sure we do this properly. I'm going to do all of this treatment first, red oxide primer, and then finish off with the hammerite. All of these products here that you see come to just under £50, so it's money well spent though, because at the end of the day you want the van to last you a long time, and you don't want this rust underneath the floor to start eating away at the bodywork. Right, let's get cracking. Most of these products you can find in your local DIY or hardware shop, or even the likes of Halfords or Motor Spares, but I'll put all the links for these products in the description of this video so you can grab them there. Now, I'll put a generous covering of that crust, hammerite crust on. Covered all the areas that we've sanded all the rust off. It was all nice bright silver, but obviously that crust is reacting now to whatever is left there and neutralising it, getting into all the little pits and everything, and it should turn this sort of bluey purpley colour, and then eventually it will go black. And then that's just neutralising any rust that was remaining there, so it's good to paint over. We've cleaned the floor through now, and actually it's in pretty good nick considering that the van is like 14 years old. It's in really good condition. There was obviously a bad patch near the door that we've treated, and you can clearly see now where the original ply lining was. It wasn't in the van when we bought it, but obviously there was an 8x4 sheet here, because there's a clear line of rust along the van here and all the way down this high point to the back of the van. So obviously that's where the join in the boards were, because water and whatever has got through there over the years, and that's where it's the most rusty. Everywhere else it's in really good condition. So I'm just going to try one of these little flappy sanding discs on my angle grinder on these flat surfaces. That might bring that up quite quickly. You can see how that's taken all that surface rust off, back to nice shiny metal, and then we'll treat that with the crust, red oxide, and repaint it with silver hammerite, and that'll last for years. Right, well, we've treated all the areas that we rubbed back with this crust, and you can now see where it's all gone black. It's neutralised all that bare metal and rust that was already there, and then now we're just going to paint it with this red oxide primer, another hammerite product, but this will give a really good base for the top coat, and it will prevent any new rust from forming. I've given the primer a really good stir initially, and then you just want a decent coat. It's quite thick, this paint, over all the areas that we previously treated, and then this will just give an extra barrier to stop that rust coming back. This primer's sort of touch dry within a couple of hours, and then you can recoat it if you want to in about 6 hours. And then it does say it's best to leave it till the following day before you put the top coat on. So we'll go over all these treated areas, any little spots of bare metal that we see, even if there's not any rust, a little bit of this on it will just give it that bit of extra protection. And then we'll come back, and all these little holes we'll fill up with some black Sikaflex sealant. So that's all of the red oxide painting done over all those areas that we treated for rust. The areas that really get the most wear, like the edge of the doors, the doorstep we've done completely. That was obviously a join in between two boards going up there, and then that was another join in two boards going down the van. So those areas have received the most amount of wear, obviously, and a little bit on the wheel arches where the old wheel boxes were probably screwed in there. We've made sure that those bits are treated, and then I'll just take you around to the back doors and show you what we've done there to the rear step. So again, this rear door step has seen a lot of traffic over the years, and it was really worn through the paint right down to the metal. So we've done the same treatment here, treated any rust, although there wasn't any rust. I don't know whether this rear section is stainless steel or something, but or whether it's galvanised, but it was in pretty good condition, other than you could see a few patches of bare metal. So we've rubbed that all back, treated it for rust, even though there wasn't any, and red oxide the whole lot, because our floor will come so far, and then where the door catches are and things like that, you'll still be able to see that, so it'll be part of the finished van. So I wanted to give that a little bit of attention, because ultimately once that's painted all silver, obviously you're going to see it when the van's all finished. So yeah, take a little bit of time. All these sort of preparation bits and pieces, they're what take the time, but they make the world of difference at the end of the day. So we've left that red oxide primer to dry overnight. It's nice and dry now, and then we can go over it now with a top coat. We're using this Hammerite Smooth Silver. It does say, you know, Hammerite paints can be painted directly onto rust, but I think doing the prep work initially will make it last that much longer, and then there's less chance of it coming back in the future. Right, let's get the brush out and get painting. So there we go, that's given the floor coat of that silver Hammerite. So that's all those few little rusty spots treated, red oxide primered and painted. And I know none of that's going to be seen once it's underneath the floor of the van, but that's going to just make sure it lasts for a lot longer. Yeah, it's a job worth doing. So there we go, that's the floor all prepped and painted. All of those products came to about £50, and I think that's money well spent. I know you're not going to see any of that once we put the new subfloor down, but that will just prevent any of that rust coming back in future, and it will make sure that your van lasts for a lot longer. So it's worth doing these things properly right from the word go. We've got loads more interesting videos to come in this series, so make sure that you subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost anything, it's completely free. Turn on your notifications and then you won't miss the next episode. Don't forget, give the video a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below, because I love reading all the comments that you guys have left me so far. and thanks very much for watching. Cheers.